Welcome back to the Mob Mentality Show. My name is Austin Chadwick and co-host is Chris Lucian. And today we're very excited to have Taimoor Imtiaz on the show. And we're just super excited to hear about his topics on GitHub's PR workflow used for trunk-based development, and then the impact of mob programming on delivering debugging for him and his team, and their struggles with switching timers during mobs. So before we jump into that, into those stories and experiences, can you give an introduction for yourself?
Hey guys, thank you for having me on the show. I'm Taimoor. I am the CTO at Blended Labs. We are an upcoming AI native platform for schools to like manage all of their operations on. We are completely bootstrapped right now. My co-founder and I, we left our big company job to start this out of a passion for making an impact on education and modernize schooling a little bit and contribute our little bit to the industry here.
Nice, nice. Well, yeah, I guess to get us started, jump right into the first topic, which is GitHub's PR workflow used for trunk-based development.
Yeah, so this topic came up during a discussion on LinkedIn, where people were like criticizing like the PR based workflow. There's this guy, Dragan, what's his name? Dragan Stefanovic.
Yeah,
Yes.
I'm a big fan of his. I've like
we've had
followed
him on the
him.
show.
Yeah. And he also recently had a talk, I think in Berlin, if I'm not mistaken. But anyways, like he has this long study that's published on InfoQ around why like a pull request based workflow isn't so great for like teams. So what I was like arguing was like, GitHub is the de facto standard, there's no way to go around it. Like teams are familiar with GitHub and PRs is the only way you, unless you are okay with breaking the trunk, PRs are the only way to, get something like checks on the way to getting stuff into the main branch. So um, basically we use the workflow that GitHub has, but our teams are either pairing or mobbing, so it's like two or more than two people working on the same task. So approvals are like you don't have to wait for the PR um, there's no waiting time for the PR
So
actually.
instant pull request rather than
Instant,
waiting for the PR.
yeah,
Because you're
and this
mobbing, the person doing the pull request is available right away, so
exactly,
you can do the pull request.
yeah.
Okay.
So basically, and this gives us a very clean trunk.
Mm-hmm.
So like all the checks pass and auto merge is enabled, and as soon as all the tests and checks pass, it goes into main, it goes into production via main as well.
Mm-hmm.
So that's like I argued that actually this is a really solid way to do this trunk-based development, and it's also like with GitHub's PR pointers, like you can click on the PR number alongside your commit message, and it takes you to the PR, and you can see all the discussions that happened or didn't happen because
Yeah.
it's all mocked. But you see like what failed, what passed, which commits were involved in reaching that like final solution that got merged into the main branch.
So like PR is more of as a documentation process, keeping an active history,
Yeah,
rather than a gate before you can get into production.
yeah. And also like we can always like uh, go back and
Mhm.
review the PR. So recently we had an outage which was due to a dependency upgrade,
Mhm.
and we were easily able to revert the dependency, and then we can also go and note down there that this is the reason why uh, this revert had to be this commit had to be reverted. So GitHub's tools are actually nice for trunk-based development as well.
Nice, nice. Yeah, so the trunk-based development either is, at least my understanding is, you're either working directly on trunk or main, um, or you have a short-lived feature branch. And so
Yeah.
I've used Git Flow in the past, but it was like a desktop tool. And now this GitHub Flow, is that what you used, or is it something else, GitHub's PR, or is it a specific tool in GitHub, or
No, basically it's
hmm,
so how we manage stuff is we have issues that track what we are doing, and with every issue, like an issue could be a feature or something
sure.
that you want to develop, and you
Yeah.
can have multiple pull requests connected to that issue.
Okay.
So as we deliver every slice of functionality, like those pull requests are getting merged, and as soon as all of the pull requests are, or all the functionality is done, the issue gets closed, and that's how development works here.
Gotcha. Gotcha. So a branch is created, if I'm understanding it
Temporarily.
correctly, but it's, paired or mobbed and then immediately pushed in. So it's
Yeah.
like a short-lived branch. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah,
Okay.
GitHub takes care of clearing the branches as well. So once the auto merge happens, GitHub goes and deletes the branch.
Nice, nice, nice. Okay, cool. Yeah, so I see the traceability you're talking about now, because if you're just working like just to be real honest, the way I work right now, when I'm mobbing and doing extreme programming all the way and trunk-based development all the way, is we're just always on main, and so, but there's no traceability, so to speak, to an issue or
Hmm.
anything like that, right? It's just a stream of commits, you know. 10 commits might be related to a feature or one commit, you know what I mean, depending on how.
Yeah,
And so I see what you're saying. So this tying into their PR system without following an asynchronous code review gives you that
exactly.
traceability from issue to commits or a branch, a short-lived branch.
Yeah, there
Um,
you go. You explained it better than I could.
Well, I think Dragon would argue that he's talking about the async reviews and not
yes,
necessarily
right.
Of course,
the
yeah.
pull request. Yeah. I think for, just thinking about our own environment, a lot of what we do, so we work in trunk only. We don't do any branching unless like there's a very special case to do so. But we typically have a feature flag that goes up, and then
Mhm.
everything gets to prod every commit. And in that style, we have been using Arlo's commit notation kind of to like approach a similar destination where you say the level of uncertainty in the commit by how many pixels are in the first character of the commit. So if you use a period, it's low levels of uncertainty. If you use an at sign, it's a high level of uncertainty. And so that's been pretty interesting. So there's certainly different flavors of this out there, and it makes sense, I think, a little bit too. If you are in a tool, often taking advantage of all the free integrations that the company is there to like always maintain is better than building your own tooling around some system that you want to keep going. So it makes sense to me. I frequently repurpose systems that are built into tooling all the time.
Nice, nice.
Exactly. Like I don't think like there's one uh like a flagship tool out there that today is used for trunk-based development, or like the processes that we are talking about here. Even
Mhm.
mob programming in the industry is pretty niche, I would say. Like it's not the dominant
Yep.
practice still.
Yeah.
We want to make it that we want to get it there, but we don't have all the tooling, all the stuff figured out yet. And the dominant or the major platform out there is GitHub.
Mhm.
People are already on GitHub. They are using
Mm.
it after work hours as well. Like now, even inside of companies, they are using GitHub, either the enterprise version or uh, or the GitHub.com variant. So it's the dominant platform. So I came up with this system so that we play with GitHubs and use it to our advantage.
Nice. Nice. Cool. Yeah. And I can see why you do that because you're starting with what people know and your context. And then, and it sounds like true, continuous integration to true trunk-based development in that workflow, which is pretty cool. And I think the advantage of what you're talking about has kind of higher built-in traceability and documentation. And it just
Mhm.
makes me curious, what do you use that information for? Like the ability to go back afterward and see what commits were related to what issue, or
Yeah.
is it interesting, or is there some sort of analysis that's done on it, or is it part of retrospectives, or I'm just kind of curious what that information is used for. Yeah.
Not really. Like we try to keep our commits or the stuff inside the PR small. So
Right.
we try to do like micro commit style
Yeah.
work and slice our features vertically as much as possible.
Nice.
Uh, and and this basically helps us go faster. And also, like, if there's something that requires a rollback, we can do that fast as well. So we, if a lot of stuff is mangled together, like if the PRs become larger, and sometimes they do, it becomes really hard to revert safely.
Ah.
So so here, like, for our case, we use GitHub's uh, like built-in tools
Hmm.
for delivery and uh, rollbacks if when required. Usually it goes smooth, but like sometimes there's a rollback required. Like the case I mentioned, we had it like 2 days ago. It caused an outage, and we were able to roll back the dependency that was causing that issue.
Nice. Nice. Yeah, to be able to.
And also, like, one other point to this, like our downstream tools also understand GitHub best because we use like Kubernetes, and for continuous delivery, we use like this tool called Flux CD.
Mhm.
So Flux basically integrates pretty well with GitHub. It can work with other providers as well, but I think the support is best with GitHub right now.
Nice.
So
Nice.
that's the choice. Like, as a startup, like we are like a very, very small team. Like we are like 5, 6 developers, and we have to like be careful in what we choose. So
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
that's the primary reason for these types of processes and tools.
Cool, cool. Well, no, it's real good learning for me because in my current context, the need for traceability isn't, you know, it's like you deliver, continuous delivery, and you get feedback, and then you change what you do based on the feedback kind
Hmm.
of thing. But I have been in contexts before where unless you want to fight the system pretty hard, they want that traceability. And so if you followed your workflow, that would just be built in. Like it'd be automated, so to speak, right?
Mm. Yeah.
And so or I think I've seen Chris build in maybe more for the fact of transparency, his own tools to automatically show like, tests committed, and what feature that test is related to, and it's like a backwards Gantt chart basically.
Yeah.
But this kind of builds a similar idea, but it's like if you already know GitHub, and you want that traceability, then there you go. So if like some auditor required it or something like that, and you didn't want to fight the auditor to not need it to provide it, something like this would just like boom, there it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, you don't want your developers worrying about that, which is good. This might be a good pivot to, so you mentioned you did the synchronous PR, not the asynchronous PR. So was there a kind of before and after from that switch from solo to mob or solo to pair, or did you just kind of start from the ground up with mobbing? And yeah, what was its impact?
So in the beginning, we were solo. So we had that traditional PR workflow because like we had to form this team from scratch. So when everybody got together, they were already familiar. They were already contributors to other companies, and they knew that workflow. So we started as so because we like I'm a fan of like not changing like not causing a revolution immediately, right? So I like to change stuff slowly. So we started with the traditional PR workflow where people were working um, collaboratively, but still, everybody had their own task or own silo to work in. And slowly we increased the time we were mobbing, and now we are exclusively mobbing, and we have moved to this workflow. It's still a work in progress as the third topic that we are going to discuss, but it's now I think we are at a healthy uh, state. We are delivering, I would think, like better than the industry we are in. So we are probably at a at a good state.
Yeah, well, I find it really interesting. In all of the stories I hear about mobbing, I think it's been relatively infrequent that I've heard about bootstrapped startups mobbing, and I think the reason is because a lot of companies get so large that their technical debt grows to a point where mobbing is like the only choice, and a lot of companies end up mobbing because things just need like a better way fundamentally with otherwise the software can't move forward. So I find it interesting that you chose to mob in a bootstrap environment. So what was that decision like even from the financial perspective, right? Working on five different things or four different things versus one. I've regularly heard that argued in favor of code quality and things along those lines, but
Mhm.
in the early stages of a company, did you struggle with that at all, or was it just something like this is what we should be doing, and because we already know that it's effective? Like, how did you get there?
So, like personally, I had discovered mobbing. Uh, it's interesting, because I wasn't like introduced to mobbing through Woodazoo or anybody,
Hmm.
but like I discovered it organically when I was working at another startup. Like I was one of the founding engineers in that startup in 2015, I guess.
Yeah.
And there was a fire in our building, so we had to go home and work for some time from home. So, and I discovered like immediately, like, like we had this dip in collaboration. Everybody was working from home, and, like a lot of chat based operations going on. So I started to look into that, and then I discovered Woody's and you guys's um, stories and anecdotes, and then that
Cool.
got me interested. So I think like the formalizations around how you mob or whatever uh, that came in later, um, but like collaboration is really powerful. So I had decided that one day I'll start my own company and we'll do it the right way.
Yeah.
So, but like I also like I said, we didn't force it on people, but I
Right.
tried to nudge like every day. So I also had like a lot of pushback from my other partners, like it's natural. So we started by like with mobbing for like 2 hours a day, and then increased it 3 hours. Now it's like 6 hours daily,
Yeah.
and we work 6 hours. We don't like go much over 6 hours. So it's like a pretty relaxed environment as well. So we don't get burnt out or anything, except for the co-founders. Like they do get burnt
Yeah.
out.
Yeah, I mean, it's nice to see that in the startup environment because I think that typically doesn't have that measured approach typically does not happen in the startup environment. A lot of people end up burning themselves out until acquisition and then move on and
Uh,
either do the same or retire or whatever. So that's a really it's interesting, and so I like hearing the that aspect of it. So, are you seeing, I guess, what are the sort of shifts as you've made that transition from working independently? What are some of the impacts that you're seeing of switching to mobbing or doing more mobbing over time?
So we tracked our progress pretty diligently. So because when I proposed this idea initially, there was a immediate pushback.
Yeah.
It was like it was like why are you even doing this? Like it doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make economical sense. It's too much money we are wasting on people here,
Sure.
where like 4 people or 3 people are working on the same thing. So we started to track our progress. So we did some measurements um, on how much we are delivering, and but the most important measurement was stuff that comes back, which is always invisible. People don't really see that something gets delivered, but it comes back later because of a bug
Right.
or some regression. So that's what we started to really track. And with mobbing and pairing, we see that that doesn't happen as often. So still, like we aren't at an ideal state. I wouldn't claim that, but we do have a very solid delivery process. We don't get too many regressions. We have some like a long list of regressions still to clear, but I think the main benefit of working together as a team is that we don't get too much stuff back. But that's only one part of the equation. Now the team is incentivized as a team to deliver to production. Before it was like they deliver to the end of their PR, and then
Yeah.
while they're waiting for the review, they think they're done. They can take on the next test. But that's I think the main benefit, but it's like really invisible. It
Right.
just shows up as a metric where your graphs goes a bit more upward.
Right.
but,
You have
but
unlimited budget for regressions, but no budget to
uh,
actually build the product correctly.
uh, no, but
Yeah.
that like this incentivization, I feel that this is the biggest benefit. Now every engineer is incentivized, and also designers. We respect our designers as well. Every engineer, designer, everybody in the staff, we are incentivized to deliver everything to production and then go to the next test. So our jobs end when
Yeah.
stuff is in production.
The
I would
lean
say
waiting
it's
waste goes away.
exactly. Also, I would argue like the job ends when the feature flag gets deleted, maybe.
Right.
So when you retire, that feature flag on off is always on, and
Yeah.
that's when the job is done.
Nice. Nice. Awesome. Awesome. Well, yeah, that was a great kind of bird's eye view of the before and after. And I guess have you seen any feedback either through retrospectives or talking with the developers on your team on the before and after? And this can be the good, bad, and the ugly, which might start getting into your struggles with timers. But yeah, what have the developers been saying in this transition? Yeah.
So I would say like our developers have been pretty open to trying these things. So they came from like the traditional way of working, and this was a bit new, and it's exhausting. So when you start mobbing all the time, it takes your muscles need to be developed, right? So it takes some time before it stops being very exhausting. So one of our guys, he called me after like the initial days, and he said like, now I don't think I can stand up. I can just crash onto my bed. And this was when we were mobbing for like 4 hours maybe.
Yeah.
So, but now, like these guys, I think they enjoy working in this manner. The confidence that you can go on a vacation, and that the other guys can take over your work. There's no showstopper. If I take a break or if I fall sick, that's amazing. Like it relaxes the temperature a lot. So I think that's one of the factors that has kept us going till here, because people do fall sick. There's like people do get married, people have
Yeah.
kids, like we've had all of the, we celebrated everything, and we gave our uh, guys like unlimited PTO whenever they needed. So and they came back energized, and so
Nice.
it's been great. I would say it's been pretty good.
Nice, yes. Yeah, and what's interesting is a lot of these benefits you're talking about seem especially important in a startup. And it is funny, kind of what you're saying earlier, Chris, where a lot of companies turn to, I would say TDD, extreme programming, and mobbing when they have a giant messes of code that they need to sustain, and they're like on the lighter end of the spectrum, right? But what's funny about is if you're an established company with an established customer base, you're actually probably the least fragile in many ways, right? Where when
Mm.
you're in the startup phase, um, the bus factor of losing a key person, to a life event of some kind or a vacation is actually more critical, right? Because, you have less customers, less funding, all those things. So everything's tighter. And so the benefits of stability seem to be, in some ways, more important.
Yeah,
And
and very
yeah, go ahead.
pronounced.
Hmm. Yeah.
I was like saying it's like very pronounced, these benefits, because mm, we had a time where one of our guys, he was on vacation, and we had to call him to please, like this stuff is, how did you do it? Like, what was the reasoning? Just tell me and I'll try to fix it here. Like that happened one day. But now the same guys, they can go on vacations. Then everybody's like pretty in tune because they have worked together. They know how the stuff is developed. So it's for us, it's been like our company, I think is still functioning with so few resources because of extreme programming, mob programming, and of course TDD.
Nice, nice, awesome, fantastic. Well, this might be a good time to pivot to your struggles with switching timers during mobs. So, what would happen there?
Yeah, that's where I need your help. So I know my team, they watch the show as well. It's
Yeah.
mandatory training for them. So so uh,
Yeah,
so what
what's
we have
going
been
on?
so what we use this. I don't know if you guys are familiar with this mob.sh
Oh, okay.
tool. So the
Yeah.
mob tool. So that's what we use for switching
Yes.
between personnel when they are working together. The recommendation over there is like, is to start with a 10-minute timer. So typically, or also in the book you often refer, Austin, is they recommend starting with a 10-minute timer uh, to start with, and then figure out what works best. But like I see a drift now. Like now, our switching times are like 30 minutes or more.
Hmm.
They even went up to like an hour. So our guys tend to switch when when it's time for a break, maybe like so the person who's the driver, he's like driving for like 40 minutes, and then we take a 5 minutes break, and then we switch. So what would your suggestion be to try out in this case? Because we know the benefits of of higher switching frequency, but like it's still like we always regress back to, and there's always something that happens that causes us to go back.
Is it the friction of how long it takes to switch, or is it the, like, have you kind of done a root cause of why it's become so long?
Um, it happens it happens often, I guess maybe it's friction as well. Maybe the uh, partner who we are switching to, they don't have the environment already up and running.
Hmm.
So Bootstrap might be the issue, but I'm like not so sure
Yeah.
what it could be. So I try to experiment making them switch often. But when there's like if I'm working on a UI or something, like I have and I switch, then like the other guy, he takes a few seconds to uh, roll back up, and that I think is the friction, that's where it comes from.
Right.
I'm not so sure what's the cause of this.
So I would recommend trying to drill into that. But if I was to make some assumptions, uh, with mob.sh having good like chocolatey scripts or however you get your bootstrapped, like you said,
Hmm.
is really important because every time you have a new mobber, you need the whole environment set up for them. The alternative, I think, is kind of what we do, where we use TeamViewer or AnyDesk, and we have a really powerful server that everybody logs into,
Hmm.
and with a high bandwidth internet. And so we actually use the Mobster timer, which is the one
Okay.
that actually like blocks out the screen. And we're not moving code from computer to computer, but everybody has to learn the same shortcuts for the keyboard. Some people have like keyboard profiles that swap shortcuts out, but more often than not, everybody just learns the same set. What that ends up doing is, like we're on the mob that I've been working with recently, we're typically on a 4 minute timer, and it's
Well,
very, so we just, 4 minutes go by, screen pops up, click, start, and it goes to the next one. And that's it's very smooth, and anybody that is new, their environment's already set up, they can start writing code. And so, I don't know, Austin, do you have any more comments around that?
Yeah. I think that's a valuable experiment to maybe run. And I think for me, the digging deeper might be the biggest thing because timers are a tool and not a rule, right? And so that means they're there to serve a purpose. And so
hmm.
I've seen very healthy mobs with no timer, like because if you are fly in the wall or in the back of the room of the mob, so to speak, and you're just kind of paying attention to the collaboration that's going on, it's healthy. You know what I mean? Like, who is the driver isn't that important because everyone's contributing, everyone's learning. You see all the different mob roles popping up uh, that we've talked about in other episodes. Um, and I've also seen healthy mobs that have very strict timer switches every 3 to 4 minutes. I've also seen unhealthy mob collaboration with a frequent timer because you're just gaming the system, right? Like, oh, well,
Mm.
so and so said to have a quick timer, so we're doing it, but the engagement's really low, and you still have like either one person mostly talking, or even if the talking is technically equal, it's very like space filling talking and not really saying what they think or what they feel. And so um, I feel like the only way to know, in my experience, is to be in the mob and see if the
Hmm.
collaboration is healthy. Um, and then from there, you can run an experiment. Like if, for example, if the assumption Chris was making is that every time mob sh, you know, turn hits, it's like this 5-10 minute environment setup situation. Then you're right. Then some automation might be in play, or trying a style of mobbing on TeamViewer or AnyDesk where the switch is seamless. It's just like, oh, click done,
Hmm.
next. I'm controlling now.
Yeah.
It's not a slow process. Um, or as you watch, you might see that it might have nothing to do with the timer, and it might be something else. Um, if there's an engagement problem or something like that. So yeah, because typically all the things we were talking about before, where you're catching bugs, you're improving the code, making it cleaner, uh, and improving your bus factor because everyone is learning the code base, doesn't happen if good collaboration is not happening, right? So
Yep.
you can kind of deflate or diffuse your mobbing impact if and so I think timers can be a useful uh, experiment to run to solve the deeper collaboration problem. Sometimes it's the trigger that people need to
Mm.
become engaged, or that becomes their like in kind of atomic habit speak or power of habit speak. If they get their cue and rewards from the timer and they just have this really good collaboration habit from a specific timer, that's great. And so it can help with that, but it can't be a rule where timer A, tool B will always solve collaboration problem. I've seen it be deeper than that. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'll say I think I agree. Like if I think about what the benefits of driving are not necessarily engagement, although engagement can be a byproduct.
Hmm.
When I see people rotating driving, I see them learning new shortcuts from each other. Like, oh man, how did you do that on the keyboard? Like, oh, that was different, you know.
Yeah.
Um, or or maybe somebody you know, another benefit that is really big from rotating the driver is just like things like repetitive stress disorder, like carpal tunnel and things like that. If you
Mm.
have everybody rotating, you actually reduce the amount of strain that somebody experiences from a keyboard. Um, you know, and so like a general rule of thumb, you want people, you know, you're observing to see roughly equal amounts of speaking. It doesn't have to be on a timer. It can be over the course of a month. Did everybody speak a roughly equal amount of time? Um, and similarly, I think on the keyboard, you kind of want something like, did everybody spend time at the keyboard a roughly equal amount of time? And those things all in balance with each other. Like you're looking for a balance. You're not looking for any specific rule about a certain time or not. If you're trying to shorten but can't, then maybe there's like some impediment there, which is kind of what I was getting at. Um, you know, I also think that uh, another emergent property of things that we've had to do repeatedly is, you know, first putting things on a checklist. So if the environment is the problem, then you put it on a checklist and then you work your way through the checklist and then you slowly make a script to then do the items. So each
Mhm.
time you have to do it again, you just add another small automation. So you break up the automation into multiple following sets until it makes no sense to have a checklist anymore. So that has been a really good pattern for us to gradually get past those things. Um, so yeah, yeah.
Nice. Nice.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I think like the time it takes to set up the environment isn't so long, but like for example, when you switch on this mob.sh, the code you have to like mob start, mob done, you know, sorry, mob
Yeah.
next. It and the time between the mob next and the mob start on the other computer and the code getting downloaded onto your machine, it takes those several seconds, and it might be
Yeah.
like enough of a delay that it causes our team to let's say, okay, like let's increase the size of this timer.
So just like as a physical environment thing, if you have the budget to do this, you know, because it is a relatively expensive experiment to run, but is you know there are a few things that I look for in a mobbing station.
Hmm.
Um, you know, so obviously you want a good processor, something that is verified. You know, I would benchmark it against the language that you use. So there's
Hmm.
often, you know, processor benchmarks for specific languages. And that's for like test runs. Like you don't want test runs, so
Mm.
just keep increasing in time over time. If you're using approval tests, I highly recommend using like a NVMe M2 hard drive with, you know, because they can be 64 times faster than a traditional SSD. So you
Hmm.
want, and you can notice it like going from laptop to laptop. If you are mobbing with people and they're running approvals, somebody will run 5 minutes, the other person will run like 2 seconds. Um, and then I think that if you're working a lot in web technologies, most web technologies are now graphics accelerated using the graphics card on the
Hmm.
target machine. So I would have some level of gaming graphics card on the machine as well. So like you know, 40, 80, 50, 80, something like that, NVIDIA.
Hmm.
That way the amount of I guess waiting that they or like you know pauses in the flow can be minimized as well. And then you use AnyDesk, like I said, to get into that machine and have a good internet connection for that. And
Hmm.
so you know, I did think a lot. earlier on when we were going remote about how do we remove the friction with mobbing when you're not mobbing in person, because I think the remote aspect of it does add delays. So, yeah.
Nice. Nice.
Interesting, interesting.
Cool, cool, cool. Yeah, well, we have a little bit more time here, and maybe we can get your soundbite on a topic you and I were talking about on the side. So, which was, I believe you guys went from uh, monorepo to multi-repo and then back to monorepo or something like that. Yeah, if you don't mind giving the quick soundbite on that story, that might be fun to talk about for a minute before we close down. Yeah.
Yeah, so the uh, backstory is that we came from a big company, I was uh, like a consultant for microservices and uh, like I was consulting companies on how to set up their microservices and environments and private clouds.
Mm,
And the mistake we made was we did the same thing for a very small company, like a bootstrap startup. So we uh, started with a lot of microservices, and whereas we have just one team, so we, instead of like setting up a single uh, monorepo with uh, basically a monolith running all the show.
yeah.
With Because we don't have so many customers, or like the traffic isn't so huge, we don't need to build for scale. But we uh, thought, okay, like we already have the skills, we can plan for the future 10 years down the line. So we made this uh, bet that turned out to be a really terrible one, that we created like a lot of services running on Kubernetes and a
Mm,
lot of repositories that that were this uh, it was a big mess. Then we started to like realize, okay, like this is a mistake. We have to um, manage everything uh, in a single project, um, like as workspaces, and then we moved to like a monorepo setup. So now we are pretty happy. Like we have a modular monolith that's our primary like backend, and then we have a service or two for uh, like file chunking and uploading, because people that's but that's like a assistant service to our primary modular monolith, and now it's pretty good.
yeah, kind of a
But
right tool for the
at
right job.
Yeah.
but like in the beginning, we went the wrong path of setting up, I don't know, Kubernetes and a lot of services. And I don't know if you saw my like the company blog post around it. So I
Yeah.
named, like you have to like scroll down like two or three times to go through all the names of the microservices that we had.
Oh, wow.
So it it's so like this is something you learn when you do product. When you are working as a consultant, or when you're consulting other companies, you tend to I would say you tend to bloat.
Mm,
So you tell them, okay, you need file uploading as a service, you need uh, like security as another microservice. I don't know, whatever, like you tend to make it more complex than it needs to be.
yeah.
But uh, when you have these constraints, when you are short on personnel, when you are short on like when you have a limited budget, you tend to optimize the right way. I think that these constraints, they actually liberate you to do great, like to do the right thing.
Yeah. Well, I think a lot of companies that are using Kubernetes don't necessarily need to, right? They might have been talked into it or whatever, or there's the team scale eventually evolved, right? So Like I personally feel like it's always good to have really sharp refactoring skills because you
Yep.
will be refactoring. It just depends on when. Um,
Yep.
and so being good and fast at refactoring is more important than nailing the architecture for your expected load. Um,
Yep.
and so and I just I don't, you know, I think a lot of people want to just predict the future and anticipate every little, you know, thing. We're
Uh,
gonna have
I
millions of customers and
I always have the refactoring book. I don't know if you
yeah,
can see
Yeah, yeah,
it
Martin
on my
Fowler's.
table.
Yeah,
Martin
refactoring guide.
Fowler's
yeah.
next to me.
Yep.
Uh, I don't read it that often as I should, but like it's I always keep it next to me
Nice, nice. No,
to
thanks for
remind
sharing
me
your
to.
yeah, thanks for sharing your story, and then I'll let Chris shut it down. But I think it just reflects, like you said, Chris, picking the right tool for the job, and your story, Timor, is helpful because I think people like to latch on to just do X no matter what, right? So just always have one repo for everything. Or, oh, now the new trend is let's have multiple repos for everything we do, And so I've kind of
Yeah.
seen, I almost felt like it happened overnight in the teams I was working with, where all of a sudden overnight, every new feature was a new repo, or like, and all of a sudden we have 20 repos in a year, and I'm like, whoa, and so, but like you said, Chris, what's the right tool for the job for the current situation? Think about it and then choose the tool.
Right.
Uh,
um,
al- Also, because it's like we had a legacy of because we came from
yeah,
this company where we were working a lot with Linux. So Linux has this, like every company's doing their projects in their own repositories and then contributing upstream. We also came with that mindset, but like pretty quickly early on we switched, and I think now it was a great decision to switch. And also we discovered that like we had cyclic dependencies
Yeah.
in some of our services
yeah.
when the compiler kicked in.
Okay,
Nice.
well, we've kind of reached time. Is there anything that you want to plug or share before we sign off here?
No, just thank you very much for inviting me. You can like check out our uh, company's blog posts. We have started to like chronicle our journey on Substack. So that's I think how Austin and I met.
All right,
Nice.
So
fantastic. Yeah, well, we'll put the link to that in the show notes, and yeah, to all of our listeners, how do you do either do you do PRs while mobbing or not? We'd love to hear from you in the comments and see, what styles of tracking that sort of data exist out there. So it'd be great to start a discussion on all of the social media platforms that we're on. And if you know somebody out there who is in an environment that could use a different variation on a mobbing story, maybe one from a startup perspective, this would be a great episode to share with them. Please like and subscribe, ring the notification bell, and Taimoor, thank you for joining us today. And yeah, to the audience, we'll see you all next time. Thanks so much.
thank you very much, guys.
See ya.